Hello, friends. Welcome in to the PHNX Bets Daily Podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook. Be sure to like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcast. Shane is still in Mobile, Alabama, sunny Mobile, Alabama, not really. So I'm fortunate to be joined by Sean DePaz of PHNX Sun Devils fame, live at the PHNX headquarters in downtown Phoenix. Sean, it's an exciting time because DraftKings, it's bountiful. NBA, spring training coming up, college basketball. So what
NHL All-Star game?
NHL All-Star game. What are we going to talk about today? The NFL draft. One of my favorite things to talk about, to shoot the shit on. But in real talk, Chicago Bears, our friends at CHGO, everybody kind of knew this was going to go down. At least I felt like they did. Justin Fields is going to be their quarterback next year.
Yep.
They're not doing the dog and pony show. Will they or won't they take a position player? Or maybe they will, but they're not going to take a quarterback.
Yeah.
So you can get advanced odds on the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now, Sean. But how do you kind of foresee this whole thing playing out? Is it open for business? Is it, God forbid, Will Anderson? What do you think the smart play is right now on DraftKings?
Yeah, I mean, when you I think from my perspective, they should, and I think they will trade that pick. But if they don't, hard to imagine that they would pass on Anderson because they obviously are not in a position to draft a quarterback. But I mean, in this draft, I feel like with that pick, if you're not drafting a quarterback, you got to trade it away, personally.
Well, and here's the thing. The Chicago Bears also traded a second-round pick for Chase Claypool. That's not great in hindsight.
No.
So they are looking to recoup picks. So I think you could look at them and say, okay, Indianapolis, we'll go from 1 to 4 and still have a chance at an impact player. Give us a second, give us a third, whatever. I think they're going to be much more realistic about a drop down, a trade down than other teams have.
Mm-hmm.
Because as much as I love Will Anderson, I think the Bears know you got to win next year. And you got to get assets, and they could be in the market of trading more picks for players, during free agency. Mm-hmm. So they need to get cheaper, tangible assets, and the best way you do that is you accumulate picks. So right now, if you didn't know this, Will Anderson has the 5th best odds, Sean, to go first overall at plus 750. Jalen Carter has better odds at plus 550. What do you think about that?
I'm a little surprised by it. To me, that definitely suggests that the odds makers think the Chicago is trading this pick to a quarterback desperate team. Which, from an odds perspective, I wouldn't be surprised if Bryce Young. I mean, Bryce Young should be the first quarterback drafted, but if he's we thought that before, and things changed, and then Baker Mayfield was the first overall draft pick. Two guys that I look at specifically, Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson at plus 10,000. I think Anthony Richardson is going to impress people at the combine and stuff like that, and I think his stock might rise. From an odds perspective, I'm not looking at any non-quarterbacks. I just have a hard time believing that they're not going to trade that pick. Like you mentioned, they need assets and they need them now, and they don't need a quarterback. And if they trade that pick, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these quarterbacks moves. So I think that it's worth maybe taking a flyer on some of these higher odd quarterbacks because stuff's going to move around. I can feel it.
And you'll be able, as the draft season progresses, to get odds not only in the first overall pick, but 2, 3, 4, etc. And Anthony Richardson, it's funny you bring him up. He's going to have a tremendous, I think, draft season. He is made for the combine. He is made for a pro day. But then you put on the tape, and it's like, hey, Anthony, what happened week 2, 3, 4, and 5? He had that explosive week 1 in college football. Remember, everybody was talking about Florida's back, and then they weren't back. So I still think he's a developmental player, probably better suited for the 2nd or the 3rd round. But I like him more than Will Levis at plus 550 to go for. I think they're like the same player. They played in the SEC. They're big. They've got big time arms. They're mobile. But I'm with you. Like I'm committed from now until I'm told otherwise. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, 1-2, 2-1, however you want to put it. Because here's what people need to remember. DeMeco Ryans is now the head coach of the Houston Texans.
Yep.
They have the 2nd overall pick. He got a 6-year contract. They've got time now to draft a quarterback, and you would presume that they will. But there was some talk and hear me out when I say this, there was some talk that they could trade for Trey Lance. Trey Lance, had Tom Brady gone to San Francisco and Brock Purdy been healthy, Trey Lance, does he go to Houston? So then they could use the second overall pick on Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. Thankfully, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Brock, unfortunately for him, maybe needs Tommy John. Tom Brady retires. So now San Francisco can't trade Trey Lance. So he's going to be their starter. So Houston's like, okay, now we need a young quarterback. So the ripple effect of like Brady's retirement on the draft with like a CJ Stroud going second overall to D'Amico Ryans. And I don't know how D'Amico Shawn loved Trey Lance, but that's just, it's an interesting like snowball effect here. But I would be shocked if quarterbacks don't go 1-2.
Yeah, like I said, I think the Bears have to trade that pick. If I'm D'Amico Ryans, I am just praying that the whoever the Bears, if they trade this pick, whoever they trade it to, just fuck this up and go CJ Stroud 1, because I think Bryce Young is clearly the best quarterback in this draft. To me, like I'm ranking them. To me, it is Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, and I really have no interest in Will Levis. I'm really high on Anthony Richardson. I think he has a lot of like his physical tools. I think he could be Josh Allen. He's big, he's strong. I think his accuracy is the one thing that he struggles with. But you show with Josh Allen, you can at least scheme around it, or he can be good enough where you have to live with some of his mistakes. I'm really high on Anthony Richardson, really low on CJ Stroud and Will Levis. So if I'm Houston, I'm hoping that one of these things happens where it kind of just people start getting too smart for their own good, and they overthink it, and then Bryce Young falls at number 2.
I'm going to tell you what you don't have to overthink, and that is wagering on Super Bowl 57 on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Super Bowl 57 now just a little over a week away, and new customers can bet just $5 on the big game, get $200 back in free bets instantly. Again, spread, money line, prop, and you know they've got a ton of props from Gatorade colors, coin flips, everything from first quarter drives, halftime totals, whatever. I'm assuming there's probably going to be some halftime show odds that you can bet on DraftKings and the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Those are available not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now on DraftKings. Again, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code PHNX. New customers can bet $5 on Super Bowl 57 and get $200 back in free bets instantly. That's only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code PHNX. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See those show notes for details. Remember, it is void in Ohio. Bryce Young, the overwhelming favorite right now, minus 135 to go first overall. Shawn, I think you and Shane are in the same boat. Thinking with Vegas that Bryce Young should go first overall, will go first overall. Here's what I will say. CJ Stroud made himself a lot of money in that semifinal game, almost beating the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, you watch what Georgia did during the season, destroying Tennessee and then beating TCU in the national championship game. They should have lost to Ohio State. If they don't cheap shot Marvin Harrison Jr., they lose to CJ Stroud. And CJ Stroud is probably a national champion, holding up the trophy at the end of the year. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. And if you have any doubt right now, I would go put 5 spot plus 250 on DraftKings on CJ Stroud, just because I think he is easier to talk himself into because he looks like the prototypical NFL quarterback, where you're already hearing whispers, Shawn, like Bryce Young's like on a calorie intake diet kind of thing, trying to bulk up. And while I appreciate that, I just standing next to Stroud and Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young's going to look small.
Yeah, no, especially with some of these bad teams that are not going to have the offensive line to protect him. Right. It is definitely going to be a concern. I think one of the concerns with CJ Stroud is he might have the best receiving core in college football history. And how much does that carry him? That being said, the guy that you would have said that about before is a guy named Joe Burrow. His receiving core at LSU was previously the best in college football history, arguably, and now he's one of the best quarterbacks in football. So that's going to be an interesting kind of dynamic to balance. Like I've said, I'm not a huge fan on of CJ Stroud. Some of his decision making is his willingness or lack thereof to run with the football, which you saw more of later in the year and in the postseason. So I don't know what to really make of it, but I just feel like from a pure talent perspective, Bryce Young is clearly that guy. And I think with what Josh Allen has done over the couple of years, coaches and GMs are a little more willing to look at guys as projects, give them a little more time if they have clear, rare physical ability. And that's what I see in Anthony Richardson. That's why those two are my 1 and 2. And then it gets a little, I mean, it doesn't get murky from there because C.J. Stroud is my clear 3 and Levis is my clear 4. But I think there's a gap in between Richardson and the rest.
It's funny, Jalen Carter plus 550. I think there's a good chance of any of these players falling. It's Carter. There's not character stuff, but it's just like to me, like he's not a better player on the field than Will Anderson. It's 1A and 1B, but Anderson's better. And he plays an equal, if not greater, position of need or value to teams, that being the bookend pass rusher.
Yeah.
So to me, Will Anderson's going to go through this process plus 750. He's going to check all the boxes. If the Bears fall in love with him, the Bears are going to take him and they're going to say, you know what, keep your second, third round picks. So I think the two value spots right now are Will Anderson at plus 750 and C.J. Stroud at plus 250 in terms of the plus money that you can get the most for your dollar amount. And here's what I will say. We'll put a bow on this. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, if they go 1 and 2, if a trade does occur, it's going to be hopefully with AFC South teams. They're going to be playing in good weather. They're going to be playing in domes. C.J. Stroud, I mean, Bryce Young would do really well in Indianapolis's dome. C.J. Stroud played in the Big Ten. But like, again, is C.J. Stroud better than Justin Fields? They both went to Ohio State. I feel like we nitpick Justin Fields to death. Yeah. Now C.J. Stroud is kind of being the benefactor of, I think, Fields' success this past year. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. It'll also be interesting later today when Sun Devils is live, Sean.
Yes, sir. We got a 6:30 tip, I believe, 6 o'clock tip against the Oregon State Beavers. And then Totri and I will be live for the postgame show after. ASU 12-point favorites despite losing 4 straight games against Oregon State. Man. I don't know what to do with it. I think Oregon State will probably cover, but win, lose, cover, no cover. We'll be live right here on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. So join us after the game.
Join us today, I believe, at 4:30. Again, special start time. Johnny, Bo, Shane Diefenbach behind the camera. PHNX Cardinals live from the Reese's Senior Bowl practice. Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator for the Lions, is getting a second interview. What's going on with Vance Joseph? People continuing to take shots at Kyler Murray despite the poor kid just having ACL surgery. We're going to talk about all that more today. PHNX Cardinals live. Come and hang out with us mañana here on Bets Daily every day at noon, live on PHNX programming. Subscribe on YouTube to PHNX Sports. You will not be sorry that you did. Become a diehard at gophnx.com. For Sean DePaz, I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you tomorrow.